We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the top stories making headlines.
The DA could not present quite convincing arguments in the chamber.
Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero has survived a motion of no confidence, but Action SA Speaker Nobuhle Mthembu has been removed from her post.
The first to 7 respondents undertake not to proceed with the funeral and or burial of the late president.
The burial of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu has been halted by the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, a ruling that came as his funeral service was underway. The South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 4 and level 2 weather warnings across parts of the country. Good evening and welcome to Prime News on 3. A pleasure it is to be in your company this evening as we bring you the latest in and around your world. I am Paulette Nell. Let's start first with this. A motion of no confidence against the Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero failed, with 144 councillors backing him and 75 voting for his removal. Brought by the DA and supported by Al Jamar, the motion lost momentum as Action SA abstained. Chief Whip Stembiso Zungu also survived while Speaker Nobuhle Mthembu was removed. Morero criticized the DA's case as weak and unconvincing.
It's not something that is worrying, except that what's worrying is that the DA could not present quite convincing arguments in the chamber. One had expected them to really present arguments, but they did not prepare adequately. That's what I've also noticed, which also gives an impression that there are challenges of capacity within the caucus leadership, because their statements were quite very low. They could not really present a strong and valid and solid argument on why they are presenting a motion of no confidence. So I guess in essence the DA wasted our time in council. Next time they would want to do, I would suggest that they prepare adequately on their arguments, and they must bring very strong arguments into council so that society can be convinced whether they do have a case or not. But today we are clear they had no case. It was just an electioneering ploy which has no standing in the work that we are doing in the council.
Burial of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu has been halted by the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. This follows an agreement of undertakings by both parties in the dispute, the Zambian government and the Lungu family. The Zambian government hauled the Lungu family and others to court, seeking an interdict pending the final determination of whether the former president would be repatriated to his homeland.
Adorned in black mourning attire in anticipation of sending off former President Edgar Lungu, the loved ones of Lungu filled the benches of the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria as a hurdle swung its way. The Zambian government filed an application in the court for an interim interdict, charging that a burial could not go ahead until all disputes regarding former President Lungu's final resting place are resolved. Arguments, however, did not proceed, as counsel had a different approach in mind, which was explained to the bench by advocate Casper Welgemoot.
My instructions is to give certain undertakings that will take care of the issues as it stands today. The family for the family of the deceased, for the late president, doesn't want a piecemeal funeral situation. It's not really what he deserves.
The negotiations proved to be fruitful as the court was able to make the draft order by agreement between parties, an order of the court.
By agreement between the parties, an order is made in the following terms. The first to 7 respondents undertake not to proceed with the funeral and or burial of the late president pending the finalization of the application in prayer 5.
This means that the remains of Lungu may not be buried until the final determination of this matter, which is set to be heard on the 4th of August 2025. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Pretoria.
Meanwhile, spokesperson for the Lumu family, Mapeki Zulu, says the death of the former Zambian president should not be used as a PR stunt by the Zambian government. Zulu says the family just wants to give Lungu a dignified burial without going in and out of court.
The family has been consistent. He mattered to the family when he was president. He matters to the family now. And taking him back home, it so appears, will not give him a dignified burial. And the family only wants to give him a dignified burial, not one that's shrouded in mockery, that's shrouded in PR, that's shrouded in giving the international community a perception that he was properly treated, when in fact not. Decency requires that the government should come across and say, we are sorry we never treated him well. We are sorry we did wrong to him. Now that he's dead, how can we make amends?
President Cyril Ramaphosa says municipal managers who underspend their budgets must be held accountable. Answering questions in the National Council of Provinces today, he acknowledged that underspending in municipalities is a great concern to the government. He said inadequate or slow capital expenditure hampers service delivery and infrastructure.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says government regularly assesses the trends in underspending and the impact thereof. He says his government is looking closely into this.
Where we do not spend money which has been allocated, I have characterized that as treasonous against our people, because our people, as they elect us, they expect us to do the work that we've been delegated and elected and mandated to do. And when, without any cause or good reason, we do not spend the money that has been allocated to them, that militates directly against their interests.
He says the inability of many municipalities to spend their capital budgets is often the result of poor planning and weak implementation capacity. This, he says, erodes public trust. Ramaphosa was also asked how his recent visit to the United States influenced South Africa's broad-based black economic empowerment.
You might have heard the Minister of Communications addressing this issue, and he has addressed it in a way of saying there are going to be hearings, there are going to be public hearings where our people will make inputs on the efficacy of what he has announced. And what he has announced is very much in line with our laws. There's no violation as far as he is concerned and as far as I'm concerned with regard to our laws.
Abri Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Welcome back. Let's continue with this. The Western Cape has been hit by a strong storm with intermittent disruptive rain, thunder and lightning and rough sea conditions. The South African Weather Service has issued a level 4 warning for high seas with waves over 6 meters in certain areas along the Garden Route. The public is cautioned to be extremely careful along coastal areas.
Members of the Langa Safety Patrol are on standby, bracing themselves for a difficult night. They not only endeavour to keep the streets of the township safe, but also assist where possible when people are affected by adverse weather.
It is going to be a very, very cold, challenging night, more especially to the informal settlement. And we also have very few halls or churches that we can be able to accommodate these people. So some of them, they will end up having to ask this place for sleep maybe to their neighbors. So as you can see that maybe 70% of the informal settlement is already been affected just on this area alone.
The highest level warning issued currently by the South African Weather Service is at 4. This is for very dangerous sea conditions.
We are appealing to the public and the maritime community to follow the South African Weather Service's forecasts and to exercise caution during this time. Don't venture down to the coastline or launch to go to sea unless absolutely necessary.
City disaster management officials say planning starts in February with a number of stakeholders from various departments and disciplines.
Within the winter readiness task team, these departments, they go out and they clean rivers and canals and they do relocations as well.
The cold front is expected to continue into Thursday. Mariska Botha, SABC News, Cape Town.
Another cold front is expected to hit the Eastern Cape province between Thursday and Friday. The South African Weather Services has issued a yellow level 2 warning for the province for damaging winds. The province is still recovering from floods that caused havoc in Mthatha and Butterworth, leaving a number of people destitute, with the rising death toll currently sitting at 101.
The warning issued by the South African Weather Services has sent alarm bells to the flood victims. This comes as the time they are still recovering and trying to rebuild their lives. They have called for a swift reaction from government should there be disruptions.
We are scared. We even asked neighbors to be on the lookout in case there are disruptions, so that we are able to help each other immediately.
I am scared because there are people that went back to their houses that were engulfed by water, houses that are still wet. I just wonder if those houses won't be affected by the strong winds that are expected tomorrow.
The death toll has risen to 101, with 94 bodies identified. The search for more bodies continues.
We found yesterday a 5-year to 6-year-old boy in the late afternoon around 3 o'clock. The boy was taken to forensic pathologist here in Mthatha. The families has identified the boy. We are in Mthatha River currently, but the distance that we covered, it's quite a long distance.
The provincial government has advised residents to stay indoors and keep warm, and motorists to be extra careful on the road or avoid to be on the road, as there's a possibility of overflowing bridges. Nomzwanele Mngoma at Mthatha.
Meanwhile, another cold front is expected to hit the Namakwa district in the Northern Cape from today until Friday. In other matters, commercial farmers in the Vryheid area in northern KwaZulu-Natal say the outbreak of foot and mouth disease is crippling the farming industry. Farmers have been forced to halt the sale of their animals due to the outbreak. The area has been cited as one of the hotspots in the province.
34-year-old Wesley Glatz has been a commercial farmer for about a decade. Glatz says the outbreak of foot and mouth disease is putting a lot of strain on his operations. Since March this year, he's been unable to sell his livestock, leaving the future of his 15 permanent employees in jeopardy.
If you are solely reliant on the sale of cattle, you've got no income. So, yeah, the bank manager, he doesn't really care too much about foot and mouth.
Farmers are calling for the implementation of strict measures aimed at controlling the movement of animals to prevent the disease from spreading to other areas.
But the best thing is on this stage is to sort this out and vaccinate certain areas. That's the biggest threat, and make sure everything has been vaccinated.
Local authorities have urged all farmers to work with government to curb the spread of the outbreak.
Abakulusi is one area that is so rich in meat production. Right now, we seem not to be getting joy, particularly because we cannot sell our livestock to other areas.
The Department of Agriculture in the province says well over 500,000 cattle have been vaccinated in affected areas to prevent the spread of the outbreak. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Vryheid.
Meanwhile, the Red Meat Producers Organization says the raging outbreak is more of an economic than an animal health crisis. According to RPO, while the state-led vaccination program has kicked off, much more needs to be done to provide market access to affected farmers through foot and mouth certified abattoirs.
Inspections of livestock and strict biosafety measures have been intensified to counter the spread of the foot and mouth outbreak.
The auction houses are doing their utmost best to comply with the rules, and when the animals get off here, they are inspected on eye level for anything suspicious, and then they all go into the clamp there where you can see, and any suspicious animal will be put aside.
While the much anticipated vaccines have arrived, they will not be administered across the board.
It's not desirable to have every animal in the province vaccinated. Vaccination is done for the purpose of reducing the viral load, and it's done for the purpose of decreasing the spread of the virus. Our starting point is going to be cases that have been confirmed.
Meanwhile, the Red Meat Producers Organization says the outbreak has far-reaching financial implications for farmers.
The big issue is basically an economic crisis and not so much animal disease or animal health crisis.
Producers say the brunt of the outbreak will continue to be felt mostly by consumers as beef prices continue to skyrocket. Sintle Inglihihi, SABC News, Lichtenburg.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's continue with this. The National Union of Mine Workers has reported a decline in its membership for the 2024 financial year. The union saw a 1% drop, with over 1,400 workers in the mining sector leaving its ranks. The NUM released a secretariat report detailing the organization's status since its last Congress 3 years ago.
Going through a bit of difficult times. Every year had its own challenges. There were areas where we were good. In 1 year we'll be fine, another there will be changes. And of course, it's purely because of the factors that we have factored in or reflected on in our report. That look, rivalry also is one of the contributing factor. But also, or largely, it could be issues of retrenchment, it could be issues of automation, decline on employment, shutdowns by various mining companies. Other factor that we have raised is companies deliberately putting mines under what is called care and maintenance. And this care and maintenance is perpetual, doesn't have starting and ending period. It's forever there. We can make an example with Sibanye, where they have since put some of their shafts in Randfontein into care and maintenance since 2017. To date, those shafts, they are still under care and maintenance.
Time now to check out what the weather has in store for us. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at what to expect weather-wise for tonight as well as tomorrow. Clear skies through the central and northeastern parts, but we do have a cold front over the southwestern parts of the country, expecting isolated to scatter showers and rain with it, mainly widespread over the western parts of the Western Cape, and then just some light snowfall expected over the southern high ground of the Northern Cape into the northern parts of the Western Cape. Tomorrow, we see that first cold front sitting over the southeastern parts, but yet another one making landfall over the southern parts of the Western Cape. A broad band of isolated to scatter showers and rain, mainly widespread over the southwestern parts of the Western Cape, and then still remaining clear over the northeastern parts. For this evening, there is a warning for damaging interior winds over the western, central and northern parts of the country, damaging waves along the western and southwestern coastline, coupled with damaging waves and winds along the southwestern and southern coastline, possibly leading to difficulty in navigation at sea. Tomorrow, those damaging interior winds mainly over the southeastern parts of the Northern Cape into the Free State, disruptive snowfall forecast over the northeastern parts of the Eastern Cape, and then along the western and southern coastline, damaging winds and waves in places, possibly leading to difficulty in navigation at sea, and then disruptive rainfall expected over the western parts of the Western Cape, with the possibility of localized flooding. Overnight temperatures seeing 7 in Pretoria, 11 in Cape Town. Tomorrow peaking at 14, extremely cold in Sutherland with a maximum of 5, but still warm along the eastern coastline. Durban at 30, Richards Bay a maximum of 31. That's your weather. Do stay tuned to SABC News.
That concludes our time together this evening. Much gratitude for joining us. Until next time, it's good night and God bless.